Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Weeb from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together, we are Kenny and Renny, and this is the Kenny and Renny show after a game that I have to say felt profound to me. I will explain all that. I will get into it. This is something that, we've talked quite a lot about, last year and the great year the Jets had. And, we all know how it ended. And is there a difference this year? I've put my finger on some differences here. I'm going to get into those and just into something that I think is maybe a little special that we may be witnessing here. But first, before we do that, I had come on here earlier and my daughter was raising money for her band trip by selling frozen pizzas. My daughter, Charlie, did that last year. They're a year apart, the two of them. Charlie set the school record last year by selling the most pizzas, I think 5 times as many as the next closest person. And a huge part of that was the Kenny and Renny audience, of course. And just like with the money that we donated to the Humane Society, I learned here with this that the Kenny and Renny audience is just, there's a lot of might, a lot of power behind it when everyone gets together like that. And you did it again this year for my younger daughter, Chase, who started up band because I think she was just so impressed watching, the process of Charlie going through what she went through last year and all the help that she got from the audience. It made her want to take up an instrument. So she took up the flute and is also going on the band trip and also took up the frozen pizza drive fundraiser and broke her older sister's record and won this year's, I don't know if it's much of a competition, but and once again, the Kenny and Renny audience had a huge part in that. I'd like to say thank you to everybody for that. Some of you will have seen my daughter out delivering pizzas to you tonight. Some of you will have seen Renny doing his best Domino's delivery driver impression. I just wanted to say thanks. And there's a knucklehead who wants to join the show here. And I'm not talking Ken. There's a knucklehead who wants to join the show here as well, who says she would like to say something to the audience.
Hi everyone. I would just like to say thank you for everybody who bought pizzas for my band fundraiser. It was a huge help and we sold a lot of pizzas this year.
I thought you were going to tell them to stop being mean to me. We practiced, we rehearsed. You were supposed to come in and say, leave my dad alone, all you mean chat group people. No? Okay, good job, kiddo. Excellent job tonight. Thanks again, Chase. Really appreciates it. For those who didn't see Chase earlier on tonight, I hope I made sure to express, because she told me to express to every single one of you, that Chase herself wanted to let you know that she was very thankful for that. Okay, to the game here. This to me is, let's get into this. We are always looking for differences between, signs that what happened to the Jets in the playoffs last year isn't going to happen this year. And I take a look at a number of things. One of them is the idea that if you remember, the Jets last year would get to first place and then they would kind of crash out of first place. They'd fight their way back to first place. They'd crash out of first place. Look at this team this year. It has held the first place spot for the vast majority of the year. And when finally teams caught up and took over, the Vegas Golden Knights surpassed the Winnipeg Jets, and almost instantly the Jets went out and erased that advantage and now are have a bit of a comfortable lead over them. The Edmonton Oilers were hot on their tail, getting really close, and then the Jets go on this 5-game winning streak. The Capitals took over and have actually been in first place for quite a while now, but the Winnipeg Jets take first place in points, not in point percentage, which just is absolutely perfect for Renny and the Hockey Night in Canada crew on Saturday, because I leave tomorrow to go do that game, join Ken on the road. And what's better than a first place showdown? The team with the most points in the NHL against the team with the highest points percentage in the NHL. Whoever wins that game ends up in first at the end of the night. That's just you can't write the story better than that. But I just got thinking about this, and what got me thinking this was Parker Ford's goal. Okay, does this not feel like a team of fate to you? I mean, think about this for a second. Could things be going any better? Could bounces be going any better? Look at it from the perspective of the vast majority of players or coaches on this team. If you're the head coach, you walk in here, you're dying to get a chance to be an NHL head coach again. And what do? In your first time back, you walk out and you set the record for the hottest start in NHL history. And if you're Davis Payne, you come in here and you think, well, I think, I can fix and turn around this power play. And not only does he turn it around, but they're riding the best power play in history right now. And if you're Mark Scheifele, you're having the best season that you've ever had in your life. If you're Kyle Connor, it's the same thing. Gabriel Velarde, Nikolai Ehlers. I mean, even a guy like Cole Perfetti, who we talk about on this show and we spill ink and, kind of consternation about where he's at and where people think he should be, but had, a 4-point night against San Jose earlier in the season, his first hat trick of his career. I mean, these are things that if you take a look around, a lot of players in his position aren't doing that. The players that we think are struggling are doing things that just seem to be lining up for them. And, Nikita Chibrikov comes into the lineup and riding a goal per game streak for a little while there. Couldn't have gone better for him. And then Parker Ford comes in, and as if the hockey gods intervened, a puck that's thrown and just tossed into the slot, bounces perfectly onto his stick. He pops it in there in front of the hometown crowd. I mean, Josh Morrissey being recognized as one of the best defensemen in the game. Samberg turning into one of the best shutdown defensemen in the game. Pionk bouncing back. DeMello scoring more goals than he typically scores in a year. Like Morgan Barron having a great year. Kupari coming out. Like there is nothing that is not going the Winnipeg Jets' way. When was the last time this team had a bad bounce? I can tell you the good bounces, at least one of them happened tonight. It kind of, maybe two if you want to count the Nick Ehlers thing, although that's just, I think, really poor puck management and attention to detail by the Boston Bruins. But, you only have to go back a couple games for that stanchion off the glass. That really is the key to the Winnipeg Jets winning a game that they very well could have lost against the Utah Hockey Club. Every single thing, and I know some things go wrong, like Lowry's injured right now. Samberg had an injury. I know not everything is going to be right, but there is so much that can go wrong for a hockey team, not just in a game, but in a season from week to week. It is insane how much has gone right and how much continues to go right for the Winnipeg Jets. Don't think for a second that I'm trying to say that this is all luck. The Winnipeg Jets are earning their bounces. They are grinding. They are doing the right things. This is honest. But I'm going to save that for later, the Parker Ford goal. But I just cannot get over on a night like tonight where two teams are basically, neck and neck throughout the majority of the game, and the other team finally ties it up. And then just an absolutely outlandish mistake by the defending team leads to the Scheifele goal. And then the same thing happens, not the same thing, but happens with Nikolai Ehlers, and everything just breaks the Winnipeg Jets' way in the end. This looks like their year. I mean, I do not know what other signs you would need. If you are a religious person and you've been saying, hey, big guy upstairs, send me some signs that things are going to break my way for the Winnipeg Jets. This game for me is just sign number 374 this year of the hockey gods saying, you know what? Things are looking pretty special for the Winnipeg Jets. This team is looking like a team of faith. That's my take on the whole thing. Time to bring in the man with the best music in the business for his take on the whole thing. Here comes Kenny.
What
Ken, my friend, if you didn't have the lobster roll, you're not doing Boston right. So I hope you did. We'll get into that later. But first, I'm loving the combo you got going on there. You really, I'm not bold enough to rock the darker blue when I wear the suits like
Oh,
that.
I love the
I
dark
need to
blue.
start doing it. Need to start doing it. Hey, you look good in it. That's why you love it. And of course, you look good in it because you went on down to Vittorio Rossi and had Frankie and the boys do you up right with that combination there. And you should do the same, folks. If you want to be done upright, head on down to Vittorio Rossi on Corden Avenue. Walk in loudly, proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will give you all kinds of pairings like Ken's going to get because he packed short. He needs a tie. So Rennie's going into his own little personal tie store. So you can all judge me on what I bring him for the game. He's got a pinstripe blue suit and a
I'm already wearing one of your ties right now.
pinstripe blue suit and a white shirt. I'm going to bring a tie. You can all judge me on what I bring him, folks. You can judge Ken right now, though, on his take on what he saw in that game. Ken, what'd you see?
Yeah, such an interesting game, Sean, because I mean, the Jets were very much full value for their start. They thought it was going to be something that was a big focus after a lackluster, kind of tiptoeing into the, dipping your toe into the pool in at the Bell Center. They were incredibly sharp out of the gate here, obviously scoring early with the Nemesnikov goal. They built the lead on the Scheifele first of two. Yeah, I mean, goal by Marchand, really excellent shot by him, and a really good screen by Elias Lindholm. But it was funny, Sean. As well as the Jets played, they kind of let the Bruins hang around, right? I mean, that was the weird part about the game. I think Scott O'Neill and his coaching staff would be really happy with the first two periods, but it was one of those where you kind of wondered if maybe letting the opposition hang around wouldn't come back to potentially bite them. And then lo and behold, there's a face-off win by the Bruins in the offensive zone and a shorthanded goal that's in the back of the net. And you look up and somehow it's a tie game, right? And then, the Jets say, Sean, you talk about things that have changed. In years past, if the Jets give up a goal like that, they could potentially crumble. Instead, what do? They score 24 seconds later with Scheifele, the guy who lost the draw. And again, I'm not blaming him, but he did lose the defensive zone draw on his weak side. Goes back and, makes sure the Jets have restored their lead. And, next thing that happens, Nikolai Ehlers forces Mason Lohrei into, I'm still, quite frankly, not sure what was happening on that play, to be honest. I mean, good job of forcing the turnover, but I just don't know what Lohrei saw there, Sean. I mean, do you? I mean, was there a better angle at home, what he was looking for? I mean, he put himself right into danger. And Nikolai Ehlers basically just stuck his stick out. I mean, good read by Ehlers, but why was the read to come out there?
Yeah, so I'll say this. I hate the way the goaltender plays that, right? Like the way Korpisalo plays it is that the guy picks it up. What would Connor Hellebuck be doing in that situation? As he looked over his left shoulder and saw that the flow of the play was going that way, he would have pushed off and bit it at the other post. Now Korpisalo has this look on his face like, oh man, what are you doing? And he should, because the play there by Mason Lohrei is to protect the puck and to protect the center of the ice. What he should be doing is trying to skate and muscle Nikolai Ehlers off and stay along the boards. It's a boneheaded play, no doubt, but it is, to me, I mean, we'll get into it later, but this is a game where I think a number of times the Boston Bruins in the end, like the difference in this to me again is the Boston Bruins found ways over and over to shoot themselves in the foot, and the Winnipeg Jets don't shoot themselves in the foot. They don't do that, and that's why they come out in games like this, even though they look tight at some point. Anyways, resume your buffet.
Yeah, I didn't like where Lohrei was going. I mean, he wasn't even really pressured, to be quite frank. So that was the weird part to me. I mean, I guess there's a guy there, but like he literally is not pressured. So cutting out on your offside to the front of the net was just such a strange maneuver. Anyways, all kinds of thoughts. Again, I know we're going to focus mostly on the Jets, of course, but man, the Bruins do not defend well at all. It is like, this is a team that prides itself on defense. It has been their calling card forever. Man, they do not defend well. I'm guessing that was pretty evident on the tube as well, Sean. But
Oh, yeah.
that was the thing that in the building, I'm just baffled by what is happening. And man, we talk about some of these other teams that are chasing the Bruins. I mean, there are legitimate questions around town, Sean. Like, what are the Bruins going to do? Like, are they going to consider selling? And it's efforts like this that I'm guessing that has Don Sweeney and Cam Neely probably considering that. I mean, again, there's always complications. But anyways, in terms of the Jets, I mean, all four lines really going today. I mean, Sean, I mean, this was the Jets were back to having their first and second line really effective in the same game. I mean, I'm not saying it just hasn't happened with a lot of frequency of late. We've been talking about a little bit of lack of cohesion for that second line, and I thought today they were, that line with I thought Nemestikov was flying. Yes, he did take a couple of penalties, but I mean, not just the goal. He was all over the ice. It seemed like he kept getting open and getting dangerous chances. I really liked Nemestikov's game. I thought he was excellent overall. Scheifele line was very good again. I thought the third line had its moments again as well. I thought that you noticed Niederreiter getting involved physically in the game, Mason Appleton moving his feet, and then the fourth line didn't play a ton, Sean, but what a moment. And we're going to get more into it, but just in terms of Parker Ford, I have to tell you quickly. I mean, the one thing that everyone saw the interview this morning, the interview tonight, everything else, but Parker Ford came out after the game, Sean, after doing the interviews, and there must have been, I mean, he thought it was 10 to 20, but to my eye, looking down into the crowd where his family and friends were waiting for him, there felt like there were at least 30 people, and Parker made his way up the steps, and his friends and family absolutely serenaded him with cheers. I mean, what an incredible moment. This guy grew up 90 minutes from here in Wakefield, Rhode Island. He was a Bruins fan. I'm guessing most people saw the picture that Daniel Fink posted, and the Ford family was kind enough to pass that along to run with my feature on him in the pregame of him standing in the kitchen wearing a Bruins jersey and no pants with a full face shield on. Sort of like the John Tavares in the Maple Leafs PJs kind of moment. And for him to not only have the game here, to be in the starting lineup, to have your buddies, he had a couple of former Providence College teammates that aren't playing pro in the seats there with him, and to see the red light go on for him, I mean, it's just a storybook moment, and it will be something that he will remember forever. And Sean, I mean, we talk about the importance of journalism and, being fortunate enough to have companies that send us on the road to support the efforts of good journalism. I spoke with his college coach, Nate Lehman, today. Just absolutely thrilled about knowing the journey. Undrafted player, 4 years in college, signs with the Jets. Mark White, the scout of the Jets that covers a lot of college and colleges, forms a relationship with them. They respect the fact he wants to go back to finish university, even though the Jets want to sign him after his junior year. He waits. They still sign him. He scores in his AHL debut, has a great year last year, incredible training camp, has to wait a full year, even though he gets the recall from game 82 last year to get himself an NHL paycheck, but didn't get in the lineup, gets in today, basically against his hometown team, pumps one home at the back of the net. Crowd goes, again, not wild during the game, but when they did announce first NHL goal for Parker Ford, even some of the Bruins faithful, recognizing his roots in the area, did give him a little bit of a cheer there. So again, we love our jobs, Sean. And I mean, you root for good stories, and man, I mean, it's hard to imagine, in a game 53, this is kind of one of those that is dropped down into your lap. And, it's just something that we take a lot of pride, and, I feel honored to be able to tell these types of stories, because they don't come around every day, in game 53 especially. And what a moment for the Ford family, quite frankly.
Okay, there's one thing that I wanted to touch on here. Someone absolutely nailed this. Greg Friesen, who I delivered some pizzas to tonight. Greg, good to see you, buddy. Vancouver rookie gets his first National Hockey League goal, and not a single teammate gets the puck. The linesman grabbed it to give it to him. Jets rookie gets first goal, and Iafallo quickly gets the puck. It says a lot. Okay, couple things. Someone also said you could hear, I think, someone who was saying you could hear it. You could hear the audience. So to add to that story, Ken, I knew that he'd scored because of the reaction from the crowd, right? Like you knew that for the hometown crowd to be that, and you could hear that level of excitement. But to this point that Greg Friesen makes, we talked so much in the past, and Ken, we talked a little bit about when Vancouver came rolling through, and the Jets culture and what it used to be, and we know that there was a lot of efforts to change the culture in Winnipeg. There's a shot in that game of the Jets bench after Parker Ford scores, and Neil Pionk is so excited. Mark Scheifele turns around and is just ecstatic. Like the bench goes crazy. And you want to know why these young players keep coming up. When I went on my rant at the beginning and I was talking about like what has not gone right for the Winnipeg Jets, about the only thing that you could say this year that hasn't gone right, and then some people will throw in Logan Stanley and of course Eric Comrie on that little streak or two things that come to mind. But that Brad Lambert came up and didn't have that like instantaneous impact at the NHL that a lot of these other guys are having. But you want to know why it's happening. You've got a team full of guys. How well do you think they know Parker Ford? They probably chatted with him a little bit in training camp. You know what I mean? They've probably got a decent idea who he is. But you are talking about an extremely close dressing room. Good dressing rooms, strong dressing rooms can sometimes get insulated, but really good ones aren't afraid to add and aren't afraid to bring guys in. And I can tell you by the way Chibrikov played when he was here, and by the way Parker Ford plays tonight, that when Dominic Toninato comes up, that like they're welcomed with open arms, and the Winnipeg Jets as a team truly, truly want to see those guys succeed. And you know what? Parker Ford's goal did not have any kind of difference on this game. Tonight, the Winnipeg Jets were winning that one way or another without him scoring that goal. And yet, to me, the biggest pop of that game from that team is when Parker Ford scores, because from the top to the bottom of this organization, there is an investment in seeing your teammates. You wear a Jets jersey, you are my brother, and I want to see my brothers succeed. And that's why you get that response. Ken, that is what you call great culture. The Winnipeg Jets have a phenomenal culture right now. I honestly think Rick Bowness, and then throw, maybe Kevin Cheveldayoff in there, throw Scott Arniel in there. But teams around the league with culture problems should be taking a look at the Winnipeg Jets and studying what they've done over these last couple of years, because the last time when the Winnipeg Jets missed the playoffs, this was a broken, cultured team. And now I would argue they are one of maybe even the strongest culture of any team in the NHL right now.
Yeah, and just reinforcing everything that you just said here. So this morning, we're looking around thinking, obviously Parker Ford's the backdoor tap and layup story, but who are we going to get to talk about Parker Ford? I mean, not a lot of guys played with him on the Moose. So we kind of came down to Cole Perfetti. I mean, he's one of the guys who had the most recent NHL debut. First question, obviously, really exciting for him, everything, coolest thing in the world. Takes a lifetime of work to get to the NHL. So my second question to him, Sean, I talked about how Parker Ford was the story of training camp in 2023 in the fall, leading the team in scoring for a while, just about made the team as this kind of undrafted guy that very few people knew anything about. This is Cole's answer. First off, he's a great guy. We haven't spent too much time together, but in the little bit we have, he seems like a stand-up guy. He's super nice, down to earth. When you watch him play, he's an honest player and he works really hard, has a lot of skill, can make a lot of plays. His game speaks for itself. He's a good player. I'm excited to see him play and to spend more time with him. I mean, these guys don't know if it's one and done for Parker Ford. Or, I mean, yes, they know Morgan Barron's week to week. They don't know if Parker Ford just gets one or if Brad Lambert's in. They're talking about wanting to get to know him better and, spend more time together. And it's not just hollow words, Sean. And that's the difference. Lots of people can say it. It's the actions. And you talked about the actions. The players going nuts. Mark Scheifele was probably as happy or happier for Parker Ford than he was for tying Ilya Kovalchuk for most goals in franchise history at 328, right? So, I mean, that just sort of reinforces everything that you're saying. So, anyways, it's a great story. And, it's just, like I said, good to be here to be able to document it. You okay? You need a lozenge?
This is just life for me lately. It's been a rough week.
Well, battling through again.
It no doubt paid off for the Winnipeg Jets to bring up Parker Ford, and it has paid off to try and turn the culture around the way that they did. And hey, if you're looking to pay off high interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambrian Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt free faster, and you can save thousands of dollars. Go to cambrian.mb.ca to book an appointment online. Let's get right into the Pristine Roofing wake-up call, because I want to ask you about Mark Scheifele. Not taking anything away from him, but after they tie the game on a power play, the overcommitment by two Boston Bruins players to try and trap the puck on the wall and give Mark Scheifele the entirety of the guts of the ice. This was the reverse of covering the guts of the ice, protecting the guts of the ice. You'd said it. The Boston Bruins absolutely need a Pristine Roofing wake-up call in the way they play, because it's crazy to think of where this team was a couple of years ago and how fast they've fallen. I mean, as the Jets stock has risen, the Boston Bruins has gone in the absolute opposite direction. They need the Pristine Roofing wake-up call, and you know what that means. Time to give North End Rick the Pristine Roofing wake-up call at 204-981-6289. He's the guy you want down at your place for all of your roofing, siding, and exterior needs. Also, you can call Pristine Roofing at 204-237-7663, so you can give your home the Pristine Roofing wake-up call, even in the middle of the winter right now, because they are ready to go at a moment's notice. Let's get to Mark Scheifele. I'm just going to give you a blank page to doodle on with this, and we'll dig a little bit more into it as we go along.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting, right? I mean, 2 days ago, Mark is, answering questions from, post game from me and others about, his. Someone else asked him actually if there was a sort of internal competition with he and Kyle Connor, and he's like, no, I want more assists, because he had just passed, it was 29 goals and 28 assists, I think. Yeah, sure, but Mark is not just a pass first player. You may be a pass first player, but he's also looking to shoot more. Again, I know some fans wish he was more of a high volume shooter, but Mark isn't just shooting for the Corsi and for the shots on net. He's shooting to score, and when he shoots to score, he often finds the target. So it's just been really impressive to watch the evolution of Mark Scheifele. To think, Sean, a couple of years ago, you and I are among the people that thought he probably wasn't going to be back, and that wasn't because of the type of player he was. It was just that things seemed to be just sort of trending in the direction where Mark needed to change. But, the money and the contract came through, and we talked about this before. I really think that kind of one of the turning points in some ways was the statue unveiling, and, Mark kind of seeing, Jet 1.0 players that love Dale and saw what those people mean to Dale and what Dale meant to them. And, lo and behold, there's a contract signed, and looks like Mark is going to become like one of his favorite player growing up was Steve Yzerman. And maybe there's a chance to play your whole career in one uniform. And, like Yzerman, he's adapting his game later on in his 30s and trying to chase the trophies that Steve was able to collect with as a member of the Red Wings. So, again, there's always things that can be worked on, but I mean, I think that Mark Scheifele is someone who works incredibly hard at his craft, Sean. He's evolving as a player, and this is a guy who, yes, he loves putting up points, but the guy wants to win, and that shows in his all-around game. But I just think that he's such a dangerous shooter, Sean, and again, let's just look at it. There are 29 games to go. Mark has 30 goals. I mean, I don't think he's going to get 50, but I think he's going to, he's going to set a career high for goals. I mean, previously 42. And I mean, he's the type of guy, Sean, if he gets on a heater, I mean, could he score 20 in 29 games? Absolutely he could. But the way that he can shoot the puck and the way that that line is rolling. And I just think it's impressive to see how the trio is working together. Kyle Connor, super dangerous. Yes, gets an empty netter. 2 guys with 30 plus so far. And Gabe Velarde too, Sean. I mean, I don't want to interrupt the Scheifele portion, but man, the puck is on his stick all the time. And we'll come back to him after that. But yeah, I mean, and I was tempted to write it again, but like the revenge tour and not being named to Team Canada, I didn't go with that storyline. I thought it was too obvious. But Sean, again, to reinforce your point on how he should have been on the team and that why you thought he was a lock, Don Sweeney has to watch this in his home rink. If it wasn't bad enough to see how he's piled up points against everybody else, now he watched it against his own team in his own rink. And I mean, it's absolutely befuddling how this decision was made. And I'm not just blaming Don Sweeney. A lot of people had input. And man, that decision is not looking good for Team Canada with the tournament just a few weeks away here.
That decision was never looking good. I'm going to but I'm going to like talk about Mark Scheifele here, but just wanted to say this. Scoots McScoot says it's definitely a headband night. Gift Guy says headband required, Sean. It is mandatory. Who am I to break the rules? So you know what that means. Time for us to make this a Sean's headband version of the Kenny and Renny show. Here we go. Kenny, you may think I'm trying to get us a sponsor from a medical supply company here, maybe like slings, Johnson & Johnson slings, because I'm going to dislocate my shoulder patting myself on the back here. But last show, I talked about Mark Scheifele, and I talked about the evolution of that line and how, they went from the snake charmer, which to me was like an effort at offense without maximum effort, an effort at offense without getting dirty, an effort at offense without having to grind. And the major issue that I talked about in the show with that is that it's a one-dimensional type of offense. And really, in the end, the guys who are hardest to stop are the guys who can figure out a way to score in every single way, right? And so what happens at the beginning of the game tonight? When was the last time Mark Scheifele got a tip-in goal, right? When was the last time you saw Mark Scheifele go to the front of the net and be that guy? Like, usually you would, like in the old days, he would have been along the boards. Give me the pass away from the fray. Let me keep it over here. Let me see if I can find that seam for the one-timer going all the way across the ice. This is just another example to me. If you want to know why he walks away with a couple goals here tonight, it's because he goes from, rather than just being the setup guy on the power play, to the guy who goes and dives into the hole and is like, he is focused on doing everything right now. Front of the net, tip the puck in, not just be the distributor like he was on power plays past. He'll be the distributor, but he'll be the scorer as well. You need someone driving the middle lane and going to the front of the net. I'll be that guy. Mark Scheifele has added every single element to his offense tonight. And listen, this is, I know that when I say all of these kind of things, I'm not trying to discount things he did earlier in his career. He just set or tied the record for the most goals in this franchise's history. You don't get there without having been a good player for a really long time. But Mark Scheifele is a better player now than he's ever been at any point in his career. And I don't know that it's close. Outside of 2017-18, the playoffs there, Mark was an absolute beast. It would be very hard to knock off that peak of hockey. And it's hard, even as good as he's playing right now, to say that he's achieved that level or higher, because that's the playoffs, right? And because he was on such a radical pace that year, that had the Jets kept going and made it to the Cup final, he had a chance at setting the all-time goals in a playoff record. But that said, I mean, his commitment to defense, the way that he works the boards, the way that he can provide offense in so many different ways, the way he's just as dangerous shooting as he is passing. This is by far the most complete version of Mark Scheifele that we've ever seen before. It probably, I don't know that it's a revenge game for Mark. To be honest, I actually think it would almost be belittling to say that this was a revenge game for Mark Scheifele, because I think Mark Scheifele is beyond that. It's better than that. Mark Scheifele knows that they screwed up. Who out there doesn't know that Team Canada screwed up by not taking Mark Scheifele? Once again, dislocate the shoulder. I said it at the beginning of the year. I was right. He didn't get on the team. That made me wrong. But who's right now? Team Canada for leaving him off, or me who's saying it's obvious that the way that he's playing, he should be on that team? Undoubtedly, he should be on that team. But what I like about Mark Scheifele is, to your point, on a night like tonight, a guy who would have gone in for a revenge game, I think going in for a revenge game is all show them. It's almost like a selfish thought, right? And you can be a selfish goal scorer, and you can be a goal scorer who's actually team first. Mark Scheifele is completely and fully team first. And I go back to, like, ladies and gentlemen, go back and re-watch the shot of the Jets bench after Parker Ford scores. I implore you. It is a thing of beauty, and he is so happy on that bench. I don't think in that moment that's a player who's thinking, yeah, Don, you sure messed up. You could have had me. That's a player who's thinking, my attention and my focus is going where it can go, and that's going to making this. Is Canada going to suffer because they don't have that? I think that there's going to be a little bit of suffering for them because he's not there. But Mark Scheifele, in my mind, has moved beyond that. And what he's going and he's doing, he's putting all his love and care and dedication to the craft into the Winnipeg Jets, into boosting Kyle Connor's game, into boosting Gabe Velarde's game, into boosting this entire team's game, into being one of the integral guys on the right now best power play that the league has ever seen. And that, to me, is a maturity. I think Mark Scheifele actually, and hey, go back to that time. I know that we just had the Evans thing. I was on the, actually both of you and I were, but I was on the other side of the audience when it came to the Jake Evans thing. I hated that hit. I didn't like it one bit. I don't think he was trying to stop the play. I think he was trying to punish a player by throwing a hit that he would not ever expect anyone to throw at him. And I thought his response at the end of the year was extremely selfish. I think it did damage with the officials. I think it did damage with his reputation around the NHL when he came out and he had that line where he said, I thought it was going to be the Montreal Canadiens trying to shut me down and not the refs shutting me down. I thought that was petty. I thought it was pouty. I thought it was self-indulgent. I know a lot of Winnipeg Jets fans lapped it up. I hated it. All the people who want to feel sorry for themselves all the time, that was fully indulgent in that. Could you imagine Mark Scheifele doing that right now and not just saying, what do I need to do to move past this and become a better version of myself and help us go forward in the future? That's the mindset. And I honestly think he is a leader in the mindset. And that's why, Ken, I think you take a look at the Jets from last year and the way that they crashed out of the playoffs. And instead of losing belief in themselves, they said, well, something went wrong. Let's get back to work. Let's go figure it out. And what we're seeing right now is a team that never lost faith in themselves, that didn't get petty, that didn't get pouty, that didn't turn on each other when things didn't work out, that didn't blame each other for, going from being the best defensive team in the league to entirely falling apart defensively. I think that he is a culture carrier in that room. Now, the transformation of this team over the last number of years, I think, mirrors the transformation of Mark Scheifele. And I'll say this right now. I agree with everybody. Adam Lowry is the perfect captain for this team. But, and I'd said this before, if Josh Morrissey ended up being the captain of this team, there would be nothing wrong with that. He would be a splendid captain. And I'll say this right now, if Mark Scheifele had ended up being the captain of the Winnipeg Jets, they would be lucky to have a player who carries himself now the way that Mark Scheifele carries himself.
Right. I mean, and then that sort of goes to your point. I mean, I think that the fact that the Jets have capable leaders, they're able to spread the responsibilities and spread the wealth, if you will, when it comes to. And I mean, we heard Rick say it the first day after the announcement was made. They wanted to have more people have a voice. It's more inclusive. You know, a guy like Parker Ford comes in and feels love right away, even though that's his first NHL game, right? So. This to me again, this goes back to at the end of Game 5 last year in Winnipeg. Josh Morrissey basically begging his teammates to go home and feel and learn from the lesson of losing again in the first round. Again, just reinforcing your point about how the Jets have great leadership from the top, but also from the alternates. And I think it's even, we're seeing it now. I mean, Scott O'Neill talked about the leadership group and how Dylan DeMello's part of it. Nikolai Ehlers has worn a letter. Kyle Connor was supposed to be wearing a letter at some point moving forward here too. And Neil Pionk is also someone wearing a letter in the absence of Lowry here with the injury also. So couldn't agree more. And again, Mark said it from the very beginning. And again, his actions have matched the words to me in Chicago when I asked him about the disappointment. You know, of course, it sucks, but guess what? I'm going to do the best to help my team. And what has Mark done? He's made sure his team is back in first place in the Western Conference. Going into that first place showdown at Saturday that we're both looking forward to, you know, especially after Ovechkin scored again today. So what? He's 19 away from breaking the record.
And I'm 14 away from disappearing.
Right.
Right. I wanted to ask about Adam Lowry.
Sure.
Before we do that, why don't you give Sweet Lou a shout out?
You bet. For folks who have realty needs you'd like to have met, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU at LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, including our podcast.
Okay, Ken, when Dylan Samberg went out, I made the proclamation I thought he'd be the toughest loss for the Winnipeg Jets injury-wise in the last 3 years in the Rick Bowness era. The reason I said that was because I think he occupies a place in the lineup and does things that there's not a readily available replacement for, right? Like you take him out and I just think it opens up the ice for the opposition. And clearly, you know, the way that Neil Pionk plays with him, there's chemistry there as well. So that was my reason for saying that. I think once again, to dislocate this shoulder for the first time this show, I think I was spot on when that happened there. Lowry, I'd pegged as probably about like the fourth best loss, not fourth best, the fourth toughest to overcome. That said, the Winnipeg Jets on a heater with the guy who is supposed to be the human eraser and the guy who quite often gets given so much credit for, you know, making life miserable on the opposition. And yet here we are, the Winnipeg Jets just keep rolling without Adam Lowry in the lineup. Are you surprised? And regardless of whether you're surprised or not, how are they doing it?
I mean, surprised that it's gone as well. Sure. You know, do the Jets still miss Adam Lowry? Of course they do. And then that's no one's disputing that at all. I'm not surprised that players have stepped up in his absence. Let's put it that way. You know, we've talked a lot about people who want to have a more responsibility or a bigger responsibility or a role. And both David Gustafsson and Rasmus Kupari would fit that mold and have stepped up and done a nice job. And I mean, Gustafsson has his point streak snapped, but he still was effective today. I mean, I still think there are times where you could make the case that maybe Gustafsson and Kupari could flip roles because of how sound Gustafsson is defensively. But at the same time, I think this opportunity for Rasmus Kupari to have those extra looks with Mason Appleton and Nino Niederreiter could help him come playoff time. They're trying to see if he can use his speed effectively when it comes to playing that shutdown role. And again, the fourth line's not going to be playing the same shutdown role as the third line. But if there can be a limited amount of drop off, then of course the head coach and the coaching staff is going to feel more and more comfortable giving that fourth line more ice time. So, I mean, we always talk about land of opportunity, right? So Lowry goes down, it means Rasmus Kupari, you're getting more. David Gustafsson, you're getting more. Morgan Barron, who's been playing the best hockey of his season, he goes down. That means there's more for Iafallo, more touches, more chances to make an impact, everything else. It means Parker Ford makes his debut against his hometown team. He makes an impact. And again, we're all talking about the goal, but Scott Arniel was as impressed or more impressed in Parker Ford's ability to play with pace, get in on the forecheck, block shots, throw hits, disrupt play, be sound defensively, and not look out of place for someone who obviously would have been feeling some nerves. But here, Sean, this is the beauty. Parker Ford's 24 years old. He's not a wet behind the ears rookie coming out of junior hockey, having all these expectations on him that he has to deliver. Parker Ford is a, self-made individual who earned the opportunity at every level and was ready for it and wasn't scared by the scale of what was transpiring. So that's sort of emblematic of how the Jets have handled this loss. I mean, no one was going to come in and be Adam Lowry. No one on the Jets roster plays like Adam Lowry, but there are guys that have some of Adam Lowry's qualities within their game, and those guys are doing their part on whatever line they're on, whether that means the centers or it means the wingers doing a little bit more to help out, and that's how they've been able to survive it.
I'm going to say this. It's the residual effect. Now, do you remember this? A couple years ago when the Winnipeg Jets were trying to change who they were, Nino Niederreiter always had the great line. He was more succinct. Adam Lowry is a deep thinker, and it's reflected in the amount of the length of his answers. Nino Niederreiter was very succinct when it came to the idea that what that line felt their job was, and this is one of those things where when your line says this to you and each of you say it, you know that your head coach has gone and said this in your ear. What they felt their importance was they were the blueprint line. They were the line that went out and showed the rest of the team how they were supposed to play. So if you remember 2 years ago, even last year, the Winnipeg Jets would get away. Excuse me. Catches me every once in a while. The Winnipeg Jets would get away from their game, and then all of a sudden Lowry's line would go out and they would snap everybody back into attention, right? They would go out and have one of those lines where they just dominated the other line, got it in their zone, held them in, churned, and then quite often they would go and they would change one after the other so that the top line could start the line trapping the opposition in their zone and catch them tired, right? They would do that. What we've seen here at this stage is Adam Lowry has been, I consider him with this team. As a captain, you're a little bit of a teacher, okay? This is what I need you to do. This is what you're going to do. This is who we're going to be. This is how we're going to come together. You're a little bit of a teacher if you're a captain. And if you are Adam Lowry and you are in this lineup right now and you fall out of it and the Jets keep going, doing what they're doing, and David Gustafsson plays the way that he has been playing, and Rasmus Kupari plays the way that he's been playing, and your top line continues that kind of grind. I put this out, and there's no way of telling it, Ken. This can't be proved unless someone has a hot tub time machine. If you went back even to last year, but most definitely to 2 years ago, I contend that if Adam Lowry had fallen out of the lineup due to injury the way he is right now, the team and its defensive blueprint game would have gone by the wayside, because they would have not had their North Star pointing them the direction that they needed to go in. Adam Lowry has been such a good teacher. He doesn't need to be the North Star anymore, even though he goes out night in and night out and provides that example. But he's taught this team so well. He's taught them to navigate the Stars on their own. And so Adam Lowry can fall out of the lineup, and the Winnipeg Jets can keep going and keep being defensively grinding and keep limiting chances and keep protecting the guts of the ice and do it over and over again, because Adam Lowry set a standard and consistently and patiently over the last couple of years pulled his team up to that standard, to the point now that the little birdies have left the nest and they can fly. Adam Lowry remains important. I'm not saying they don't need him back, because I don't think anyone on this team is better at the grind than Adam Lowry is. But that said, this to me is a team that has graduated. And if I am Adam Lowry, I am looking at this lineup doing what it's doing while I'm gone, and I'm very confidently saying, yes, young grasshoppers, well done. This is an excellent job. This to me is just a sign of a team that's matured to another level and gotten to a place that Adam Lowry has set the example for over and over and over again since the first year that Rick Bowness got here.
Yeah, right on. No doubt. I think you wrapped that up nicely. And sorry,
Okay,
before we
let's
get to
go-
the awards, I got a quick one here that I need to share. I am absolutely shocked at Trent Frederick today, Sean. And I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt when he went after David Gustafsson. Where was Trent Frederick today? Mr. Tough Guy. Scott Arniel started Logan Stanley in the starting lineup. I didn't see Trent Frederick go anywhere near Logan Stanley, and that was a little bit surprising to me. And again, I understand Boston has its own problems, but anyways, it was just something that stood out to me. I mean, that was very strange, because Fredericks answered the bell against a lot of guys this in his career, and maybe he was just trying to focus on hockey. But that was a little bit surprising to me. And again, I'm not saying that Scott Arniel started Logan Stanley with the intention of getting into a fight, but anyways, it was just something that was
throws it out there. I don't know if I quite see it the same way. Like I think he's out there, and I mean, I don't know if I saw him hiding. He definitely didn't go and
I don't even know that he threw a body check, though. Did you notice him throw a check out there?
Well, yeah, I mean, no. I mean, he definitely, if the suggestion is that he shrunk in this game, I mean, I've got all kinds of time for that argument. I think my take on the whole thing was actually going to be that the Winnipeg Jets, I thought this was just another example of them very much understanding where their priorities are. Like they could have ran around tonight, and they could have got some life into that building. They could have made it all crazy and maybe given the Boston Bruins some life. And instead, like even with Brad Marchand, who I thought, like, in the end, Brad Marchand, I was thinking, you want to talk about him being on that team and Mark Scheifele not being there. Like, does Brad Marchand not know who they're playing? Like, it's the Winnipeg Jets. It's their power play. He's going out. He's taking these ridiculous penalties over and over again. I mean, the one thing that we haven't talked about yet is, yes, the Boston Bruins score a shorthanded goal to tie that game up, but they go ahead on a penalty that Brad Marchand took, which is just like a boneheaded penalty against the last team in the league you want to take that penalty against. Like, we talked about how badly there's a million reasons why that team is in, not quite free fall, but seems to be lost in the woods. The way they defend is clearly one of them. But as much as I like Brad Marchand, and as much as I like that part of his game, he played it like a rookie tonight, Ken. Like, he played it like a guy who just ran out and was like, I'm going to get some energy in this game, and did something stupid and turned around and ended up in the box. And he's doing it against the worst team in the league. He's not taking anyone with him. The Jets aren't going to fall for that. So my take on the whole thing was, I think a lot of people thought the Jets were going to go in and there were going to be fireworks, and there weren't. And I was actually not that surprised, because the Winnipeg Jets for a long time have been a team that's decided, you know what, if you want to go, we'll go. Okay. Adam Lowry will go against Reeves. Like, this is not a team that shies away. If you have to go there, we'll go there. but we're not going to let you drag us there, and we definitely aren't going to be a team that goes off our game because we lost our composure with you. We're going to hurt you on the scoreboard first, and we're going to defend ourselves when we need to. I've been talking about this for years. The Winnipeg Jets have rode that balance, I think, for the last 5 years better than any team in the league. They get you on the scoreboard. They don't fall into the trap of playing tit for tat. And so on a night like tonight, I think Frederick was probably told, listen, if they come looking for you, go do something about it. But we don't need you running out and, creating a situation by which you get us in the penalty box or any of those things, although Marchand goes out and does it anyways. Anyway, we got to get to Johnston Group got you covered play of the game. What do you got?
Yeah, it's a long time ago, Sean, but there's a play in the first period where David Gustafson's back check is a stick lift on David Pasternak on what would have been a incredibly dangerous scenario in the slot. And for me, that again, you talk about the things that the Jets are doing without Lowry. That is the grasshopper kind of moments. And yes, Gustafson's always been that type of player. But knowing when Lowry's out, the extra importance of making those smart little plays, that sort of is, they stack those plays, and that's how the team goes on a 5-game winning streak and has 35 wins through 53 games.
Love it. Stack those things. That's what I've said before. It's the right thing over and over and over again. That's what they do. Mine for me was there was a play where Lindholm was coming in and Kyle Connor did the back check and did this great reach all the way around the player and knocked the puck off his stick. It was just like a guy who's not only just thinking, I need to be there. He's like, no, I'm not just going to make this guy's job hard to get to the net or disrupt his shot. I'm just going to get him to turn over the puck right now. It's just an example of how committed this team is to defending when your number one goal scorer and your number one scorer and a guy who does not look like he should be a grinder is out there grinding the way Kyle Connor was. That's my Johnston Group got you covered play of the game. And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's number one employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. And that is the Kenny and Renny Johnston Group, the Kenny and Renny OGs got you covered play of the game. Ken, what do you have for the hashtag the Keg save of the game?
Yeah, I think actually, and this is not just for Manitoba content here, but I thought that Hellebuck made a exceptional save off of Morgan Geekie in the first period, and a bunch of the chatters have also mentioned that as theirs. I'm not being influenced by them, but I'm going with that one. I thought it was an excellent save. Hellebuck, as Scott O'Neill said, Helly's Helly, there when you need him. As speaking on a Jets perspective, I thought he was very solid today. Made the saves when he needed to, but that was one of the early kind of tone setters for me.
Yeah, again, for me, this is like how many games are the Jets stacking up where they really don't allow their goaltender to be that challenged that often? I mean, I'll say
Korpisalo on Nemesnikov was also a really good save too, right?
Yeah.
Is it the second period maybe when he was in alone?
Yeah. I'm not even going to say it because people will just get mad if I say it. So let's just move on from that's Ken's hashtag the Keg save of the game. Doesn't matter what he thinks matters. What do you think? Share with us your hashtag the Keg save of the game. You're automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine Keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And our winner from our last show, that would be ESH. ESH, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email. I'll have the fine folks at the Keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine Keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And that brings us to our lamplighter of the game. What do you got, Ken?
Yeah, I mean, as someone who covered the story from beginning to end, it would be pretty tough to not choose the Parker Ford moment for the sentimentality for the individual and for his family, and just for the overall story of a guy who, undrafted guy. And again, I was going to just say, I mean, all the Jets were happy, as you mentioned, but I mean, Neil Pionk, undrafted player, he would feel seen by Parker Ford scoring in his NHL debut, I think. And Parker also scored in his AHL debut. So this is a guy who isn't afraid to rise to the moment. So I'm going to go with, again, was there an element of good fortune involved for him? Sure. But he also made his own luck to get to the NHL, and he made his own luck when he found a loose puck in front of the net and buried it. So I'm going with the Parker. It's got to be Parker Ford on an evening like this one for him.
I'll agree, but it doesn't matter if I agree. It doesn't matter what you think, Ken, or I think. Matters what the folks at home think. Share with us your hashtag TCB Lamplighter of the game. You're automatically entered to win a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for Kenny and Renny to gift you your 8-pack, you know what to do. Head on down to their tap room at 1290 Kenniston. Join them there where they have all different kinds of beers, a lot of stuff that you won't be able to buy in a can. So make sure you go get it on tap there and get yourself a pizza while you're at it. It is the best in the city, in my estimation. And that brings us to our winner from our last show. That would be Isha Boy Bruce. Isha Boy Bruce, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email. I will send you a voucher for a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. It is the nectar of the gods. Ken, anything to say before we go?
Yeah, just quickly for those who missed it, Morgan Barron week to week upper body as a result of that massive hit on Kirby Dock. Don't know the full extent, but I would imagine it's something to do with the shoulder area. Although he was the aggressor in the hit and sent him flying. He took the tough end of the blow on that one, which means there's opportunity. Parker Ford, Sean, pretty safe to say he's earned himself another game on Saturday against the Washington Capitals. But I mean, after that, we'll see what happens with Brad Lambert when or if he gets into the lineup. But I think that Ford, if he plays like he did today, I mean, he's going to get some runway here, especially, we'll see how many weeks the week to week is, but generally it's not just a 7-day thing. So going to be an interesting one, and can't wait to have you back on the road here. Going to be a fun tilt on Saturday, and can't wait to see it.
It's going to be good stuff. Thanks everybody for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Ken, what is going on with this? This must be like a bot or something like that got in.
I think there's two. Yeah, we've already banned one of them, but someone else is coming in.
Anyway, whatever. That's it, folks. Appreciate you stopping by. Ken, great job as usual, and I will implore you all
as well.
I do every game. If you appreciate the conversations happening in this space, please appreciate the contributions by our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space. That would be Vittorio Rossi, Cambrian Credit Union, Pristine Roofing, Sweet Lou Furlan, the Johnston Group, the Kenny and Renny OGs, TransCanada Brewing Company, and of course the Keg. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you. Let's reconvene and do this again Saturday night with a clash between the two number 1 teams in the NHL. It's going to be a gooder. Talk to you after. Bye-bye.